What is going on, Peacemakers, and welcome back to another video. Today's video, I want to talk to you guys about doing the right thing. There's a couple of questions, though, that I want to ask during this. And that's specifically, why do we care about doing the right thing? Why do we want to do the right thing? And I think if we understand our motives, we will be able to take on more challenges for proceeding with doing the right thing. What I mean by that is, if your intentions are doing the right thing because you're afraid of the alternative of, consequences for doing something wrong, or if we choose to do the right thing simply because we hope to have rewards or to live a better life or to gain some kind of positive outcome as a motivation to doing the right thing, we're going to shut down when negative or bad disasters occur. And the reason why we're going to shut down is because we're going into it not expecting resistance. Our minds are being set to, well, I'm doing the right thing, therefore I should be rewarded. But then we're discouraged when the bad thing keeps happening to us, or when something negative keeps happening to us. And many people, including myself at one point, subscribe to the idea or theory of let the crime fit the punishment. Or why should I go out of my way and do anything positive if all I'm going to receive is negative? Well, you can live the life that you want to live. You choose that destination for yourself. However, the outcome of that isn't going to be in your favor. And I think most of us, really do want a positive outcome. I think most of us really do want good things to happen in our lives. We want to live on the straight and narrow, but we don't want any consequences, or we don't want any trials, tribulations. We don't want any bad things to come with it. But let me tell you something. That's exactly why the straight and narrow is straight and narrow. It's because there are trials and temptations. There are persecutions. There is a bunch of negative things that you could receive, all thanks to doing the right thing. So what could you possibly gain from doing anything in life if doing the right thing won't give you a break or won't give you a positive outcome? It's a legit question, but I think what we tend to realize is that it's more of a selfish question. I think we tend to realize that the question is extremely one-sided, or it's based on what we want. Has little to, if anything, to do with what we need or what's best for us and people around us. It's all about what we want, and what we aspire towards is what we want. Want is such a powerful thing because it's what provokes us to do stuff that give us these chemical highs, regardless if it's external or internal chemical high. We chase it, right? Whether it's dopamine, serotonin, whatever, we chase it. And then, external highs being like, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, things that just give you a stimulus. No matter how brief or how long, or regardless of, how much the effect has on you, that's what we seek. That's what many people seek. Just because a lot of people just want to feel better. A lot of people just want to feel good. But there is a sense of good in the pain and suffering of it all. It's hard to see that. In fact, it's impossible to see that, especially if you don't understand that there could be a greater outcome for you. A long-lasting outcome for you if you embrace the suck early and then ultimately are strong enough to handle whatever life throws at you. But you have to put in the work first. You don't just magically or spontaneously get that. That doesn't just happen. You have to grow to it. It's like exercising muscles. You don't just you're not just jacked up all of a sudden. No, you had to put in the work to get there. And I think exercising your muscles is a great analogy for many things, but one of them is to endure hardship in life. And this is something that you also have to just mentally prepare yourself, and that's what I'm talking about when when we're just having this conversation about what is your mindset when you choose to try to do the right thing. Is it so you can receive good things? Is that the reason why we do the good things? Is that the reason why we hold the door for people? Or what is the motivation? And let me tell you, really the only motivation we should ever have for doing the right thing, and that is simply because it's the right thing to do. The moment we start having motivations to do the right thing because we're hoping for a positive outcome, because we're hoping that something good is going to come from it, we automatically have the wrong expectations that lead us down a very trying path. And it's going to only continue being trying and filled with trials and temptations if our mindset isn't ready for it. You're going to be fighting yourself and the problems in the situation that you find yourself in. Doing the right thing usually requires about 30 steps. I say 30 steps because that's more than just 20. And that's definitely more than 10, but I feel like for some reason 20 isn't enough. That there's 20 steps or 10 steps seems pretty average for something that's important, something that you have to do. There's a lot to it. It's not just quick and easy and we're out of here. 30 steps is that mid between where it's like once when you start getting to 25 or 20, you're kind of like, what? I want to start cutting corners now. It forces, 30 is kind of like going that extra mile. When we do the right thing, we will find that we typically have to do that we have to go the extra mile. And this is why a lot of people say this ridiculous saying of nice guys finish last. And I absolutely hate that saying. And I think I've done a video on that, but I can't recall. But doing the right thing always provokes the enemy to appear. And why does it why does the enemy appear? Or why does the enemy care? Well, when you do the right thing, you're going against what they want you to do. And who is the enemy, right? Who's this this character? Well, as Christians, we know exactly who this enemy is. It's the demonic oppressions, it's the fleshes of our own desires and temptations. It's the ways of the world that are also carried out from the flesh's desires and temptation, that are also instigated by the demonic oppression. There's a lot to this world than just the physical. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 44 tells us that for every physical body there is a spiritual body. And if that's so, then we can make a lot of predictions. For those who like science, we can make a lot of predictions by that. We could insinuate that there is an afterlife. We could insinuate that this spirit is where our thoughts, is where our emotions, it's where empathy. If we were all just, our consciousness, if we were all just made from matter and we were all just organisms that were living, why would we be any different than the animals? Why would we be any different than single cell organisms such as plants? Why are we more complicated? I digress. When doing the right thing is not easy, because we do not think it's going to be easy, or we are not prepared for it to be easy, because we have the mindset of doing the right thing, we will instantly start to back down the first time some kind of resistance rears its ugly head, just for the simple fact that we weren't expecting it. We weren't prepared. Typically people think that, well, if I do the right thing, nothing bad will happen to me. But I mean, if you take a look at many of the people throughout history that tried to promote, that tried to start movements of love and appreciation for one another and acceptance for one another, they have all met a horrible fate. Christ, Martin Luther King Jr. The moment we start doing the right thing, somebody has a problem with it, regardless of what that enemy looks like. What we're truly dealing with is exactly what Ephesians chapter 6 verses 12 tells us, which we are dealing with. We are not wrestling with flesh and blood, but against darkness, against wickedness in high places, against principalities. It's the spirit of that evil that shares and resonates with other individuals who feel convicted to oppress an individual that feels either jealous, judged, or threatened by those who do good, by those who do perfect. There's one thing that, for instance, there was a situation that I was in. I was hanging around I was hanging out with a few interesting characters. And it happened that I was the only one that didn't smoke marijuana in the group. And a conversation just, started to emerge from that, because I guess, either they all knew each other or they were all just cool with accepting that or talking about it. And then all of a sudden it became that I was the odd man out. Now, obviously for legal reasons, I was in the right because I'm not doing anything illegal. However, if the law wasn't there, there's not really anything wrong about it necessarily. However, I personally have a gripe about it, because you're getting your happiness, you're getting your chemical high from something external, where my joy, my happiness is found from God. You don't need these chemical, and you don't need these chemical highs. You really don't. Many people have been living without them for all their lives. Reason why many people, many people start depending on these things, and this is what I like to refer to as self-certified addiction. I don't really think addiction is real in the sense that we think it is. People are like, he's addicted, what can you do about it? And play it off like it's some medical term that just prevents anybody from ever improving in their life or getting better. And then we just are okay with that person will never get better. And there is something that is wrong with them, because if they can't just find joy or happiness in the world around them, there is a problem. Now, there's a few very small percentage of exceptions for people who have chemical hormones or chemical imbalances, and absolutely studies show that there is a medical usage or medical place for marijuana. But I'm just not using marijuana as just, I'm using marijuana as this idea of, as well as, metaphorical as well as realistic or literal, that when you are the only one doing something right around a bunch of people that are doing something wrong, you will be looked at and judged accordingly, because, well, how come you're not doing what we're doing? And, maybe marijuana is a sore subject for some people. What about drinking? What about, and it really has more to do with the moral conviction and the moral aptitude, because, look, you can do whatever the heck you want to do, and if the laws weren't here to prevent that, the world wouldn't be a very, safe place. Not that it's safe anyways, but what I'm saying is, when the moment you start to do the right thing, the enemy notices. And if you are guilty of being convicted by whatever you feel deep down inside you, to the degree in which you are willing to persecute or ridicule other individuals for simply not wanting to engage in that kind of activity, you are absolutely the problem. And this goes for Christians who are absolutely judgmental. This goes for, this is not a religion problem. This is a people problem. This isn't a God problem. This is a people problem. That's one of the things that my uncle so eloquently said to me, was that if somebody had a bad experience at a church, that's not a God problem. That's a people problem. And that's why we as Christians are supposed to be the salt of the earth. Not the trials, not trial, not jury, persecutor, and judge all at the same time. God calls us to love one another. He doesn't call us to judge or persecute. Now, I will say, there is a difference between calling out what is wrong, and especially in today's society where I feel it's more necessary than ever. I feel like it's more necessary than ever to point out what is right and what is wrong. But it is all depending on how you do it. Not what you're saying, but how you're saying it. That will determine the outcome of who's going to listen to you and who's going to ignore you. And believe me, if you care more about what you have to say than how you say it, it will show. Now, you may just have a very natural, realistic or good way of getting the point across. Others do not. That's very obvious. One of the most contributing factors to doing the wrong thing is because it's easy and because it's convenient, or because it gives us this chemical high or this feeling. Well, and so let me tell you something. The biggest cause of atheism in the world is Christians who acknowledge these things in church, but then walk out the door and go on about their lifestyle as if nothing ever happened. That hypocritical characteristic that many people don't listen to, because why should they when you don't? And don't get me wrong, man, I'm the biggest hypocrite there is. There are times in my life where I could have made a better choice, but I just wasn't thinking straight, or regardless of what the situation was, I chose not to do the right thing. But acknowledging that can better prepare you for making the right decision in the future. Acknowledging that, admitting you have a problem when you have a problem, is the first step to being able to solve the problem. If you just go about your lifestyle and you're just Mr. Perfect all the time, you do absolutely nothing wrong at any time of the day, there is absolutely nothing to gain, but everything to lose. You may ask yourself, well, what am I losing by doing the things that feel good, by doing the things that I want to do? Well, personal growth could be absolutely one of them, but not just personal growth. Making a better lifestyle, or making a better life for your family, for your friends, for anybody that has to be around you. Doing the right thing isn't just because you get a reward, or because something negative could happen to you if you don't. Something negative is going to happen to you even if you do. So what does it matter if you do the right thing or the bad thing? I'd rather be punished for doing the right thing than being punished for doing the wrong thing, because, well, it's wrong to do it anyways. It's wrong to do the wrong thing as it is. So why should I be doing it? This is also a huge conundrum that I have a problem with in my everyday, is finding what I want to do in life. and figuring out how I want to contribute in life. That's the hardest thing for me, is because am I feeding in to the world's problems, or am I in some way helping or contributing to making a better world, making a better life? There's a lot of career choices that many people would think that it's the right thing to do, but then don't really understand what it takes to do that. I'm going to be as vague as possible on that, because you fill in the blank in your life where you've experienced that yourself. But regardless, I want it to be extremely understood that, man, you're going to get punished no matter what you do. So you might as well be doing the right thing while you're doing it. And then you might say to yourself, well, how am I going to be punished? Man, the world doesn't care about good people. The only thing it cares about is getting its little fill. And sometimes that means that it hurts innocent people just to get that fill. Get that chemical high. Get that justice. We don't want justice. If we wanted justice, we would get everything that we are deserving of. And that is not a positive thing. Why? Because we're not perfect creatures. We're not perfect people. We're not good all the time. We have good characteristics, some of us. And some of us can make good decisions and good choices in certain situations. But that does not inherently make us good and perfect. That means we are capable of great good. But 9 out of the 10, our default is capable of great evil. Now, if you allow that great evil to take your life and run with it and rule over it, you will find out very quickly which master you serve. And you can only serve the one. You either grow to love the one and despise the other, or follow the one and ignore the other. It doesn't work real well when you try to follow two people. Now, that's where parenting is so perfect, is because it's not necessarily two people. That's why a house divided cannot stand. Those two people become one. And that's why it's so crucial for us Christians to find our significant others that are rooted in the values and the beliefs that we are rooted in. It's why we should be yoked together, because if we're not, and let's say, one of the best illustrations I've ever heard for couples and stuff is the illustration of a couch. If we're trying to move a couch and two people are trying to pick it up and move it in totally opposite directions, the couch is never really going to go anywhere, and it's not going to get any lighter. But when two people pick up that couch and they have the same mindset, the same goals, the same aspirations, or the same wants as one another, they're going to be able to pick up that couch and go in the same direction. And that's what you have to find. Doing the right thing isn't easy. It's going to take a lot of time, because maybe your motives, or maybe your significant others that God has in store for you, is not 100% on par yet where it should be. And there's a lot of personal growth that has to come before you can stop being single. And it also very well may be that how is God going to give you a godly spouse or a godly significant other if you aren't a very godly person yourself? What you're going to find is that your significant other is almost better than you. And that doesn't really that doesn't bode well for many of us, because we become jealous. We become upset about this. We start to envy and then despise that individual because we're jealous of them because they're better than us. And our insecurities start manifesting and start showing in ways in which we're not proud of, but also in ways in which are a defense mechanism, because we feel threatened by perfect. And it goes back to what I just said earlier about when you are surrounded by imperfect, you are the outcast, you are the outlaw, you are singled out, and you will be probably persecuted, and you probably will also be ridiculed for that, because you are the odd one out. Doesn't matter if you're the odd one out for doing something right, and it doesn't matter if you're the odd one out for doing something wrong. It just tends to happen. Now, you can be a sheep and follow the herd and submit yourself to the herd, or you could be a shepherd, and instead of being changed by your surroundings, you could change your surroundings. That's up to you, though. And it's not so easily done, because you have to take the time to illustrate why that other individual should change. But you have to articulate it in a way in which they will not come off as, condemnation, or coming off as arrogant, or coming off as ignorant, because people don't listen to people who are ignorant. It has to sound smart. It has to sound right. It has to sound like you're not trying to put them on blast. So, with that being said, doing the right thing, it's not easy, and it's not gonna be. So don't let that take you by surprise. Understand that this life that is really worth living is a life that will go and take risk. But also understand that this life is not for real. I mean, it's real, but it's not the end all be all. There is a greater purpose that we are meant to live. We just have to get there. We just have to understand where we fit in all of it. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry this was a little bit of a long one, but doing the right thing, it takes a lot. And this is probably just going to be part 1 of part 2, because there's a few other branches and ways that in which I could see, doing the right thing could apply to many other scenarios. So who knows, maybe we'll adventure down this road again, but I want you guys to know that it is best to be the only one in line than to be the ones that are scattered. And it's completely normal to want to be the ones that are scattered, because the shepherd will follow the scattered sheep. A good shepherd will go out of their way to find the one out of that 99 that are back at the pasture. But try your best not to be the one that tries to be rambunctious or rebellious, or tries to get away from what is right. Try to be the one that stays in the realm of being right. I'm not saying follow or be the sheep. I'm saying do what is right. And when you start doing, when your wants become his wants and his wants become your wants, and him, I mean by God, and you're going after God, the people that are around you in that moment are the people that are meant to be in your life. And God will absolutely let your path either be parallel or somebody will come along, and that will be the person that is meant for you. Now, it often happens when you least expect it. So don't be looking for it. Because if you're looking for it, your alternative, your motivation for doing something is dictated because you want that significant other. You want that reward. Do not do it for the reward. Do it for the sake of doing it because it is the right thing to do. If you do something for the reward, are we really doing it out of the kindness of our hearts? Are we really being genuine? Or are we just doing it because we want that significant other? We want that house. We want that money. We want that yard. We want with the white picket fence. We want that, that job that gives us 6 figures. Whatever it is our selfish desires are looking for, do not let that dictate or do not let that dictate how you choose to live your life. Let the motivation for doing the right thing simply be because it is the right thing to do. And let your heart be transformed. And man, I got a great book. And I know a great man who could teach you this stuff. Take care, my friends. And I hope I see you guys in the next one. Take care.